Hello, everybody. Welcome to Better Together. When you know better, you get better. That's what we try to do here every single day. It is Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. And our quote of the day, make your default mode one of generosity. It's a nice way to live and it's contagious. And that is from our guest today, Dr. Frank Lipman. I thought his quote would have been like, don't eat sugar.
I know.
And your body will be happy.
I was surprised when I read that.
But I like this quote.
Thanks, Dr. Lipman.
I'm so stereotypical. Anyway, happy Tuesday to our Heal Squad. You guys are all part of our Heal Squad. We're all healing together, and we are a squad. And in fact, Dr. Lipman, in his book, The New Rules of Aging Well, talks about the need for building your tribe and how important that is. Now, I have heard recently that tribe is not a favorable word anymore. Right. So I share that because we probably have to share that with Dr. Lipman now too. Mm-hmm. But squad is favorable.
We love squad.
And we love squad. And that's exactly what's happening here. We are all a part of this Heal Squad. Today we're going to be chatting with celebrated gut health expert Dr. Frank Lipman about his new book, which offers easy, healthy life hacks to help us preserve our youth and our health. I think you guys are going to love it. I was just telling him seconds ago how much I love the book and how I felt it to be so bite-sized and so simple. And I think that one of the challenges we have is all of this information can be overwhelming. So what I try to remember to say, and if I haven't said it in a while, here I am, guys. Hashtag Heal Squad, take it day by day. You're getting all this amazing information from us, but try not to get overwhelmed. I can get overwhelmed. That's why I know how you're probably feeling. It's like, oh my God, I have to do all this stuff. You don't have to do all this stuff. Look at your life and look at your biggest problem areas and try to attack those. And as simply as you can, and then you keep folding in little by little as you're folding your eggs. Just fold those eggs slowly in.
Or as Dan Levy from Schitt's Creek would say, fold in the cheese.
Fold in the cheese slowly, guys. Take it day by day. As something sticks, then add something new to stick, because you can't build Rome in a day. Although they kind of did, but you know what I'm saying. When we went to Rome, I was like, holy moly, these people built stuff fast.
Yeah, they're hard workers.
But yeah, it can be overwhelming. So just a side note, I think, I don't apply everything all of the time either. So don't feel bad. Your journey is your journey. And as long as you're trying to be better, that is all you can ask of yourself.
I love that, Maria. And the truth is, this show isn't supposed to be a high pressure, like only the best can come. It's a come one, come all. Mm-hmm. We like to say, bring your beautiful, messy self to the podcast every day, because we do that.
Yeah.
And that's the point of the show, is that we don't want you to come as a perfect person. We want you to come as someone who's yourself, but excited to get better. And we're right there with you. And, I've been open on the show. It's been an amazing journey for me. So we're glad you're along for it.
And I have to say, too, just touching on that really quick, I set my intentions this morning. It literally took me 2 seconds. And for some reason, that idea, after Dr. Amen, I had been struggling with it, because I feel like a lot of us think, and at least I did, it's going to take forever, right? It's like, we don't have time for that. We don't have this, which is so silly, but it's what we're stuck in those ways. So it took me 2 seconds this morning. I just sat there and I was like, okay, intentions, great day. Yeah. Ooh, let's do it. And I feel like it really started me off on the right foot. So if it's as little as doing something like that, implement it.
I think that's a great point. I was actually in the shower doing my Tony Robbins, breathing in and out through the nose, doing my couple moments of power, because I was like, okay, I got to get back in the swing of things. And knowing that my A1C levels got high. If you listened to yesterday's show, I shared all my blood results with you guys. But I was like, okay, working out is a big part of this. I have to figure out what is possible and how I do it. So this morning I was like, okay, no matter what, I'm going to get out there. I'm going to do something. So I walked at a really extreme fast pace up and down the driveway. I got the bike. I drove the bike down halfway down the driveway. I did a little walk to my neighbors who have a really cute bulldog named Bruno. I went to their house. He wasn't out. Then I came back. I got back on the bike. I biked down the driveway, which, by the way, that bike is hard to pedal.
I know.
Because it doesn't have gears and stuff, and it is hard.
I stand up on it usually because it's like, oh my God.
I was like, how does this girl like riding this thing? This thing's hard. But anyway, it got easy. It's easier on the drive back.
Yep, because it's a little slight downhill.
That's what I thought. Okay. All right.
You nailed it.
So I did that. And then what I realized was it was 30 minutes of I can get 30 minutes in. You know, usually you look at the clock and you're like, oh, it's going to take me forever to get ready and do this and do that. No, 30 minutes, did my stretching, did some sit-ups, total of 50 minutes worth of movement. And I've just got to commit to doing that and pushing myself. And then I'm drinking my green juices. So this one is from Suja, who my friend Annie Lawless created. And it's cucumber, celery, grapefruit, green chard, lettuce, paired with lemon, kale, spinach, parsley, and mint tea. It has 5 grams of sugar, nothing added. And
It's one of the best ones.
Is it really? Are they the best?
I don't know if they're the best, but definitely one of the best because they have least amount of sugar. Often you get the ones that you're like, have all the apple and this and that, and it's 20 plus grams.
Yeah,
but
you can't do it with the apple. That's the thing. So
Yeah.
I saw these at the supermarket and I grabbed the last 3
Yeah.
because I have to be pounding these to get my anemia on track.
That's right.
So just pounding the green juices. Kelsey, by the way, made the most amazing soup last night, Chef. So I'm usually the chef in the house, not gonna lie.
It's true.
But Kelsey was like, I'm gonna make soup. And I was like, let's see how this goes.
She came downstairs and was like, what are you doing?
But no, I came downstairs because it smelled so good upstairs. And I was going to bed. I was trying to do Dr. Lipman's fast thing. He talks about fasting for 16 hours. So I went upstairs. I was doing my research, you know, and whatever. And then I had this unbelievably strong aroma because she wasn't using the fan. You got to use the fan when you use the stove. All this heat was coming up to my room. And I was like, what is that? And so it was a good sign that it smelled good. So I just heated it up and ate it. It's amazing.
Thank you.
I mean, the power of soups. We really forget
I know.
how good soups are. And my dad is like the best soup maker.
He's a soup king.
But man, that was pretty friggin' awesome.
Thank you.
That
And
was
it's-
like an
what was
A+
it?
soup.
It's so easy. It's a sweet potato chili, basically, but you do it without the beans. So I do ground turkey, organic. We'll have to ask Dr. Lipman. It's grass fed, but apparently he likes grass finished. So
Oh no,
anyways.
that's the meat you need to get. I don't know if it's the poultry. The
Right.
beef is supposed to be grass fed, grass finished.
so this one wasn't grass finished.
Which, by the way, our friends at Thrive Market, you can order, and I had forgotten about that part of
So you
Thrive,
can get meat.
because I've focused on like my almond butters and my chia seeds and
Totally.
stuff like that. But you can order your poultry and your meat there.
Well, it's funny you say
So
that.
now that's where we're going to be getting our
Yeah.
meat, because as I bought my last Butterball turkey yesterday, I was like, this is it, buddy.
Truly.
We are not doing this anymore. But I was desperate and I needed to make sure we had some kind of, you know.
sustenance. But that's funny you say that because this morning Jeff and I were looking at the rundown. I'm like, Jeff, Thrive doesn't have meat. And he goes, yes, they do. I didn't know that. So very exciting.
Yeah.
We'll be getting meat from them.
I know I think we were so focused on our other things that we
Yeah.
missed that part.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it,
Yeah.
but I wasn't so focused on getting that from there at that point, or getting it in general.
Right.
And so now I'm really laser focused on getting the right meats, and especially now where we are, you know, hopefully moving forward with this surrogate and all of that stuff. Like, I am going to change my eating habits for my future kids, and she's going to be changing some of her eating habits for my children she's going to carry, you know, all
Yeah.
of that. So, and for her family, but yeah, it's really, really becoming a focus for me. And I know my mom's going to benefit from it.
1,000,000%.
Because when my dad does the food shopping, he still is living in the old country where he's like, Maria, come on, you pay extra for nothing. And he goes and he buys the cheap meat. And I'm like, Dad, please stop.
Yeah.
And he doesn't listen. So now if I just ship it, thank you, Thrive,
There you go.
I will be good because it'll be stocked up and he won't have a choice.
Perfect.
And if he doesn't see the bill, it's my bill. He'll be fine.
He'll be great. He'll be great.
When
So-
I'm paying, it's okay. When he's paying,
Exactly.
nah.
So
I
we
love
need
that.
him to make us. Well, okay. To finish though.
Yeah, what's the soup?
turkey? So
Ground turkey.
you start with sautéing some onions, just some yellow onions. I did 2 yellow onions. You saute them till they get that nice brown. Add the turkey, and then I added a can of peeled tomatoes. I do unsalted because I like adding my own salt. And then
which, by the way, Dr. Lipman talks about the differences between table salt and like fine salt. Holy moly, didn't know. You guys are going to die with this interview.
I'm so excited. And then you add all your spices. So I did like cumin, paprika, oregano. I like to add a little turmeric and black pepper because you can't taste the turmeric, but it adds the health benefits. And then 2 medium sweet potatoes, some vegetable broth. That's really it. It's really easy.
You put
spinach. And spinach.
Yeah. Did you put celery in there or anything? Jeff,
I can't wait.
I just ate it. It's so good. And I love it because you have it. Like, what a great thing to make on a Sunday because you have it for the week. So now whenever you're starving, you're like, okay, I'm just going to eat the soup. No big deal. Done. You've got some substance in there. You're like, you're good.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, what we'll do, Kels, make sure to send it to me after the interview. We'll put it in the podcast description because it sounds easy. And I'll make some. I've been cooking a little bit because I'm back in the Midwest, and I've been having fun cooking for my in-laws. So that sounds really good.
It's so good. And I shout out my girl Rachel Good Eats on Instagram.
Because you got it from her?
Yeah, friend of a friend back from Seattle. And
why don't you share
her.
it on Better Together's Instagram so people can see where it came from too?
Well, it's delish.
I love it. In the meantime, guys, thank you for joining us. If you haven't already, click subscribe on Apple Podcasts or YouTube. Please do. On YouTube, you'll get little notifications so you don't miss a show. Also, if you haven't joined us on Patreon, this is a great time. We are building that out. We, of course, give you free content, but extra content, ad-free content, but we're also doing these incredible workshops. Tomorrow night, we are doing a workshop with Patty Penn, the renowned Reiki healer from the documentary Heal that we love so much. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it, especially before the session with her, because you'll really appreciate what you're getting. And so a session with Patty is very, very, very expensive, but you get to do it with us here on the Patreon, and she's going to do tapping with us. So if you've never done tapping, you'll get to see whether it's something that you really connect with or you like. So then you can find a tapping practitioner near you, or you might schedule appointments with Patty. I don't know, how that works, but these are great ways to have access and proximity to the best experts in the world for, $10 a month. We have a top tier of $25 as well. But I think it's really, really worth it because, there's no other place where you can do all of this. And I think it's been beneficial to our listeners. They've been sharing with us. We're actually going to share a little video that Jeff's been compiling with all of their kind of testimonials that will help you on your journey to figuring out whether you want to join over there or not. But I think it's a great investment in yourself for sure.
Yeah, you'll see in the video, I say skip the Starbucks. Really, it's if you get rid of 2 Starbucks to work with some of the world's best healers, pretty easy choice.
So true.
Yeah. And you'll be healthier without Starbucks too.
That's also true.
In the meantime, we're talking gut health on the show today. So if you have any gut issues or you don't realize you have a gut issue, I think I've had gut issues and didn't realize it.
Probably.
Too.
I mean, I think we all do to a degree for sure.
So stay tuned for that. Holiday season is officially here. I see your note here, Jeff. I saw a tweet from Ryan Seacrest today where he said, "Is it too soon to put your Christmas tree up?" Now, let me refer to my calendar. It is November 10th. Okay. It's November 10th. We always have our Christmas tree up the day after Halloween. So our Christmas tree is up, guys. I have not shared the photos yet because it gets aggressive on Instagram.
It's beautiful.
But when you see it, Kelsey and I made a trip to Sam's Club and got our holiday stuff on. For me, it was like get as much done before we left so that when we got back and our schedule was busy, we weren't playing like catch up to get everything ready for when my mom and dad get here. So thank God, because it's still a lot of work to get everybody's rooms. We have to move my mom's room downstairs because she can't get upstairs anymore. Even with the stair chair I have, I don't feel like it's safe for her to go up there because one false move and she tumbles down the stairs just trying to get her to sit in the seat. I've had so many nightmares. So we're setting up her room downstairs and so actually I think I have a little credit over there that I could use for some of the TVs I need to get.
There you go.
Because I need to set up a TV in their room, in the caretaker's room.
Brilliant.
So I should probably do that. And
the reindeer.
Yeah. Well, the reindeer are on their way.
Oh.
I already ordered that. Jeff, it was like $100 or something. I got 2 like lit up gorgeous reindeer.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful.
Like, you need that in the front lawn. I'm sorry.
Especially in Connecticut with the woods.
Especially
It
because
is
we have the
so-
real ones running around. So on my cameras, this is my favorite part about owning cameras. I get to see all the wildlife that's creeping around the property at night. So there was definitely Prancer, or maybe it was Vixen. I don't know. It was either Prancer or Vixen. I didn't get quite the best look in his eyes, but the horns, everything, or the antlers. And I was like, oh my God, the biggest deer. And then there was like a little Bambi. And then we had an opossum, and we had some skunks, and we've had some bunnies, and you just see them hopping. And it's my favorite thing in the world
it.
to go down the rabbit hole of looking at my cameras and seeing what wildlife is creeping around.
It's really why she got them.
Yeah.
Just solely for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
So yeah, I think, dare I say, I think we're going to have a really good holiday season, guys.
It's going to be fun.
I feel like everything's calm-ish.
As much as it can be, right? I think 2020 has a big asterisk where what does calm mean, but I hear you, Maria.
Yeah.
And I think everyone is ready to just try to enjoy our lives a little bit. It's time.
I know.
I agree.
I still don't know how to handle holidays and family. Like, the jury's still out on whether we go to my cousins at Thanksgiving or we do separate, because I still think it's a little dangerous
Yeah, my vote is separate
to get
only 'cause
everybody
your mom.
together.
Yeah. It's just not
We haven't
working.
decided yet either. I'll keep you posted, but we're still going back and forth. So with our pawpaw, Laura's grandpa, the sweetest man, we don't know
Papa.
yet. We're just
know.
still figuring it out.
Yeah, I think it's really challenging to figure out how many people is safe. Like, my uncle's in his 90s, my aunt is in her late 80s, her brother is in his 90s. My dad is type 1 diabetic, my mom is brain cancer. Like, we just have too many compromised
Yeah,
people
you got
to
asthma.
And the hard thing is, this is going to sound a little macabre, but I hope it
What's
doesn't
macabre
need
mean?
to.
Excuse me?
But like,
What's
with
macabre
old-
mean?
Oh, like a little dark.
Oh,
But here we go.
Jeff with the
With
vocabulary.
someone like
Truly.
Wayne, who's 90, he loves Thanksgiving more than anything. And you think he's 90. How many more of these does he have anyway?
True.
We don't,
Oh. So then if you don't get together,
Yeah.
what was it worth? But then if they're
That's a good
dying in a
point.
hospital alone, you're
know.
going to be like, why did we get together? It's kind of like my dad,
Catch-22.
the same thing. He's like desperate to be with his brother. And I was like, okay, Dad, but you could go see them on your own separately. And it's just you guys. But when we have the sons in our family who aren't taking this as seriously, let's just leave it at that, who are going to bars and hooking up with girls and whatever, they're bringing danger in. And when they have conspiracy theories about this to begin with, then
Yeah.
how do you even explain that to somebody? Like, everybody's got their perspective. And so, I think it's a scary thing to figure out. What is the best thing for everyone's mental health and their happiness, and then at the same time for their actual physical health? Because if something happened to my parents and they were in a hospital, you best believe I am breaking into that hospital. You will have to drag me out and lock me up in a freaking police office station. There's no way. There's absolutely no
TMZ,
way.
Maria. That's
Jeff-
why that's the only reason you'd have a celebrity scandal is breaking into a hospital to save your
100%.
parents.
I would
talked about that
never,
yesterday.
I would never, ever, ever be able to leave them in there and not be there.
She told me yesterday the only way that you would know, or the only reason I wouldn't show up is because I got arrested.
Yeah.
Were her words.
Yeah.
And
Like
I
if
was
she was in the hospital here for
Yeah.
I'm like, there's just no way I would break in
Yeah.
and I would get in. And I
Yeah.
know I would.
Yeah. You would. Oh, 100% you would.
There's just no way. I would be Dr.
love it.
Menounos for sure. But there's
You'd
just,
pass.
God,
I know.
somebody break in for me, because I'm the one who really can't be alone. My parents are total troopers. I can't be alone in a hospital. I have so much trauma
Oh, girl,
around
I'm
that.
breaking for you.
I went to the hospital when I was little because I ate a whole bottle of grape chewable Tylenol.
Jesus.
So you
Ooh,
guys
scary.
probably weren't alive when there was chewable Tylenols, but they were really delicious apparently.
Yeah.
And my parents were cleaning the nightclub, and I was alone with my brother in my dad's little like space, and I found them in the pocket, and I just ate them all. and had to go to the hospital.
That's scary.
And because my dad's type 1 diabetic, my mom couldn't leave him alone to stay home because he had severe diabetes and he really needed like 24/7 watch. So I had to be stuck in the hospital alone, probably like 6 years old or something.
Yeah.
So I'm terrified.
Yeah.
And yeah, no bueno.
No bueno.
So I can't be alone in the hospital.
I'd break in. Kevin and I both
break
would
in.
break in.
Kevin would be like, she's fine.
I'd break in.
You would have to break in. I have no faith in Kevin breaking
No,
in.
I'd break in. My family always says this, and I think it's one of my best qualities. We always rank who, if one of us got sick, we would want to take care of the other.
You always get, you're a good caretaker.
I always win.
Yeah, Kelsey's really good.
I'm like,
she's
Deb,
very empathetic and very like protective. You have it for sure.
So I'd break in.
I think for me, my heart's in it, but like that, all the pills and specifics and some of those details, you might want a second brain on there.
Jeff, this is Jeff caretaking for me dying. Be like, oh, Maria, I really take responsibility for forgetting that. I'm really sorry you're now dying because I forgot. I'll do better next time. Jeff, I'm fucking dying. Oh, I'm really sorry, Maria.
Guilty as charged.
He's like, Maria, I set an alarm for tomorrow, though.
I'm really sorry, Maria. My alarm to give you that life-saving pill just didn't work out. But I'll get it next time, I promise. And I'm like,
I'm crying.
Kelsey would be there though.
Yeah, Kelsey would have been. Yeah, she would have been there for sure. So
we're a good team.
But listen, like, not everybody's good at that stuff, and you can't feel bad. Like I've had a struggle with that. I'm good at the things I do, but Kevin's a really good caretaker. Like, but I'm going to be more detailed than him, and I'm going to do more research than him. Like we're kind of a really good team with that stuff. So, it is what it is. But yeah. All right, guys, let's get to our interview. Dr. Frank Lipman is a best-selling author, doctor, and leader in functional medicine with a focus on what he calls good medicine, an appropriate blend of cutting-edge modern medicine with age-old healing techniques from the East. Now, he aims to collaborate with his patients to create a unique and specific personal health care plan. For almost 40 years, he's guided and helped thousands of patients feel healthier, look great, and increase energy and resiliency to better deal with life stresses. So Dr. Lipman, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
Where are you in this great world?
New York.
Oh, perfect. Not too far from us. As I told you, and I told everyone earlier in the show, I love the book. I love how simple and easy it is and how digestible. I think it's one of the first times I've applied so many things into my life instantly after reading it because it was so easy.
Great. Yeah, thank you. That's what I try to do. I try to take complicated information and make it easy and accessible. And in this day and age, when people aren't reading too much, you need to put out the information in bite-sized bits. So that's what I did with the book.
Mission accomplished. I have to say, one of the things I was talking about on the show was, after you turn 40, there are so many things people say like, oh, when you hit 40, your body just changes and, you gain weight and you can't lose it. And we look at it from kind of a vanity and aesthetic point rather than what's kind of going on under the hood. And I think that this was the first time I really got to understand that there is like major changes the body is going through that you can be averting or supporting with these, pretty easy steps. So I'd love for you to talk about that in depth.
Right. So you nailed it. As we start getting into our 40s, people start getting more symptoms. They start putting on weight and they're bloating more, and they can't poop, and they have aches and pains, and they're tired, and everyone just puts it down to, well, I'm just getting old. And sure, we are getting older, but that doesn't mean the functioning of your organ systems has to decrease that much. We're all going to get older and we're all going to die eventually, but how we age is changeable. So these are little things, little changes one can make, which will make us feel so much better. How we eat, what we eat, when we eat, how we exercise, our sleep. Everyone takes sleep for granted, and sleep is a major anti-aging medicine. How we deal with stress, how kind we are, whether we have gratitude or not, whether we have friends and family surrounding us. So, all these little things, and as I say all the time, it's the ordinary things that we do on a daily basis that have an extraordinary effect on our health. So there's so much we can do. There's so much we take for granted that we don't consider as part of a health regime that anyone can do.
What are the kind of technical changes that the body's going through?
Right. So as we get older, all of us will start getting more and more inflammation. That's normal. But how we deal with the inflammation or how we prevent the inflammation is something that we can change. So for instance, the perfect example is our gut, which is a major source of inflammation. So as we get older and our gut isn't functioning as well, and we get an altered microbiome, and then maybe some increase in the permeability of our intestines, or what we call a leaky gut, which I'm sure you know about and most of your listeners know about, then we start getting some byproducts of foods and toxins and metabolites going through this barrier in our intestine, which is our internal skin, and into our bloodstream, and it can present anywhere in our body. So it can present with joint pains, with skin problems, with moodiness, with brain fog, with weight gain. A lot of that has to do with inflammation, and a lot of the inflammation stems from our gut. So looking to optimize functioning of the gut is key to aging.
Yeah, one of the things that struck me was also how you metabolize alcohol changes. So I've noticed my husband in the last few years is so frustrated that he can't even have a drink. It bothers him. It makes him feel so hungover, even just one drink, or he'll feel sick. For me, I get really inflamed. So I get like phlegmy and not, it's not good. But you're saying that that is something that's happening with the body. And I know a lot of women at some point will realize red wine doesn't agree with them. Red wine was fine for me years ago. I can't do it now.
Right. And that, I think that's very common and typical and well articulated. And I think we just got to listen to our bodies. That doesn't only happen with wine, it may happen with other foods. In particular, wheat products are very common in terms of we can tolerate a certain amount. As we get older, we become less tolerant. So that happens often. Another example would be exercising. When we're younger, we can push and it's not a problem. As we get older, it sometimes becomes a problem if you push your body too much, because first of all, you can get tired from that extra burst of stress on the body, which it is. I'm not saying you shouldn't exercise, but pushing your body too much can be a problem. And the other part is, as we get older, we don't heal as efficiently as when we're younger. So if you injure yourself, it takes longer to heal. So we got to adjust our diet, how much we drink, how much we exercise, and sleep. Everyone thinks as you get older, you don't sleep as well. Sure, it's harder to sleep as well, but it's probably more important to sleep well, because it is, when we get older, we tend to sleep a little bit less and not as efficiently. So you need to put more attention on your sleep as you get older as well.
Yeah, I think that is that's something that everybody kind of suffers from. And I wonder if interrupted sleep is an issue that's connected to the gut.
Well, yeah, I think everything's connected to the gut, even sleep, which is interesting. But interrupted sleep may not be a problem if you're getting up and then going back to sleep quite easily. The problem is if it's interrupted and then you're having a problem going back to sleep. I think, especially for men, as you get older, you're going to wake up to pee. That's normal. But if you go back to sleep easily, it's not a problem. But, you brought up an interesting point. The gut affects everything, and everything affects the gut. To me, the gut is the center of all things health. And it's interesting, most old traditions used to think like that. I studied with an herbalist, an English herbalist, Simon Mills, and he always used to say, all traditions, if you don't know what to do, you treat the gut first. When I started studying Chinese medicine, it was the same thing. The earth element is the gut, and you treat the earth element first. When the earth is off, when the gut is off, everything is off. So the gut is key to your health.
One of the things I think is troublesome is I don't think a lot of us know when we have gut issues.
Well, another good point, Maria. Most of the time people will, feel a little bit bloated and have a bit of gas and they don't poop properly. So, but they think that's normal as they get older. They just accept that as just a normal part of aging. But sometimes, not too often, people don't even have gut symptoms, and the gut problems present in other organs. But most of the time, I would say at least 80% of the time, these little gut problems, which you just think are inconveniences, are actually the beginning of something that can get worse. So if you're not pooping well, if you have loose stools, you're constipated, you have bloating, a bit of reflux, don't just take a drug to suppress those symptoms. You've got to see why those symptoms are happening. You're going to see why, when you're driving your car and the oil light goes on, you don't put a Band-Aid over the oil light. You see why the oil light went on. When this oil light goes on, when these symptoms start occurring, you've got to see why it's happening rather than just taking Nexium or taking something to suppress a symptom.
Mark that down.
I know, right?
That is brilliant, because that is kind of the biggest flaw, I think, in our medical system is we are just given things to suppress, and we have become so comfortable with going to the doctor, getting a pill to fix it because the other way is too much work, right? So coming to you is too expensive, too much work, too much time. I don't have time to deal with all of this, but that's really what we need to be doing, is supplementing, is healing, is working on the actual origin of the problem. But I think we haven't gotten there yet, where we realize, oh, that is a Band-Aid you're putting on an oil, a check oil light. Like, you can't do that.
No, you can't. And you know what? It's not that difficult. The changes can be easier, and that's what I always try to make them easy for people. A lot of the changes are, for instance, a perfect example would be fasting. So you can still eat the same amount, but you eat your food within like an 8 or a 10-hour period. We always used to think breakfast is the most important meal. But as you get older, actually fasting and eating dinner earlier and breakfast later is actually really good for your health and for longevity in general, because when you fast, it's this little stress on the body which stimulates the cleansing mechanisms in your body. It's called autophagy. So by stressing your body a little bit, by fasting or not eating for 14 or 16 hours, or by pushing your body for short spurts with exercise, or by having a cold shower after a hot shower, these are these little stresses that are actually really good for your body, and they upregulate your longevity genes. So it's little things like that. The cold shower after a hot, when you're exercising, just short spurts of pushing yourself, or eating. Don't eat dinner. Eat dinner a little bit earlier and breakfast a little bit later. So you can make little subtle changes in your lifestyle, which can have a huge effect on your health.
Yeah, those are some of the things that I started this morning right away. I started doing the short bursts of energy, the workout, and I started last night with the fasting, and we're going to start doing that here with Kelsey as well. But Kelsey, you had a question about the breakfast thing that I think you should ask.
Oh, yes, I
Dr.
did.
Lipman, because there's conflicting advice that we're trying to understand.
Sure.
And that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Hi, Dr. Lipman.
Hi, Kelsey.
How are you? So exciting that you're on the show. So, question for you. I have heard, and from a couple of our other experts, that we should be eating closer to when we wake up to maintain blood sugar levels. So what do you say in that regard, when it's like, okay, blood sugar, but then fasting? How does that kind of play?
Okay, great question, because a couple of years, 5, 6, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, I used to recommend the same thing, having a good breakfast so your blood sugar levels stay stable. But what happens when you start fasting and you start eating less carbs, because sugar is a major issue when it comes to health and aging, your body doesn't need as many carbohydrates to function properly, and it doesn't need to make energy from carbohydrates. It starts using fat more. So once you become as what we call fat adapted, you're not relying on carbohydrates so much for your body to process that food to make energy. You don't actually need the carbs, and you don't need the carbs for the energy. So you need to do it slowly. So instead of just going fast, for instance, now I fast 7 days a week. I fast for 16 hours. Today it was 18 hours. I just, was doing virtual consults. I wasn't hungry. So that once you start getting into the routine, you actually don't get hungry and you don't need the food. So you start with 2 days a week, then you build it up to 3 or 4. You probably only need to do it 4 days a week anyway, but that it's not true. It's what we all believe, what I believe. But now that I do it myself, and I do it with a lot of my patients, especially people over 40, 45, 50, it becomes more important. I think young women like you, Kelsey, fasting isn't as important. When you in the mode of life where you want to have babies and you're growing and you want to be strong, fasting may not be the best thing for you. But when you become an old fart like myself, it becomes more important. So it all depends on your age, depends where you're at. And I think it's a myth that you need the carbohydrates. So I'm not suggesting you need to do it.
Right.
Maria, maybe you sort of caught in the middle.
I'm an old fart too.
Oh, you are? Well, then you don't look it.
Thank you. I'm 42, but you said anybody over 40.
Yeah, once you start getting to your 40s, I think it becomes more important, because that's when the shift happens, when you go from wanting to grow and be strong to wanting to preserve and maintain.
Yeah. I think, that's when I started realizing too that there was maybe some things going wrong. I was like, oh God, I'm bloated a lot. There is some loose stool situation going on. There's like all this stuff. And, it's hard to catch up with what's happening sometimes. And I think that even just mentioning those symptoms, someone's going to kind of like look down and be like, yeah, that's kind of happening to me too. And those are the red flags to start addressing your gut issues before they become bigger issues.
Exactly. The earlier you can catch any issue, the better. So yes, most people, I mean, I see this all the time in my practice. Most people come in, they're not even complaining of gut issues, but when you ask them, they say, oh yeah, actually I do get bloated. Actually, yeah, my stools are looser than they should be. So yes, most people just accept these symptoms as normal, but the earlier you catch anything, the easier it is to reverse. And it doesn't mean if you've had it for years, you can't reverse it either. That's the beauty of the body. The body is an incredible organism that actually wants to heal and wants to, create balance and get back to normal. If we give it what it wants and what it needs. Unfortunately, we don't a lot of the time.
Yeah, if you had a gut issue, like if I was like, okay, yes, I'm bloated, yes, I have loose stool most of the time, I would go to a gastroenterologist. And what would they do for me, Dr. Lipman? Because I've never really gone to one that I can remember in recent times.
Well, that's another great question, because unfortunately, the gastroenterologist will do an endoscopy maybe or colonoscopy, and they won't find anything because, those tests are normal. It's this metaphor I give you, in Western medicine, there's disease and there's health. There's black and there's white, and there's nothing in between. But there's this huge gray spectrum between health and disease. And what I do and what functional medicine doctors in general do is try to take you from that, the dark area of the disease towards health. So until there's a major problem, a gastroenterologist is probably not going to pick it up and just going to give you some drug to suppress a symptom. So yes, unfortunately, this key organ system of the body is not dealt particularly well with in Western medicine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, it's funny. Even my doctor was saying I should see somebody in gastroenterology because I have hold on. I have it written down here. It was intrinsic factor antibodies because I'm anemic and I'm B12 deficient.
Right.
And my A1C levels are a little higher than normal. So it was one of those things where he's like, you should probably, I think he suggested an endoscopy.
Yeah, you can have an endoscopy. There may be something wrong with your gut. I don't know if you've been checked for SIBO. That's one of the tests that they can do. Small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. That's a breath test. There's some tests that, even traditional doctors can do. Unfortunately, they don't do. There are some more and more interesting tests that we now have available that can actually help us determine what's going on. Mm-hmm. But yes, I agree. If you have intrinsic factor antibodies, it's usually it'll cause a low B12. It's usually often a gut problem, and you need to have your gut checked out. So to be continued, Maria, let's get this sorted out.
Yeah, isn't that funny? I was like, Kelsey, am I catching your gut stuff, sympathy pains here? Like, what's happening? I never had that before.
I said yes.
But I always have had anemic tendencies. I'm always anemic. My family's all anemic. And I think B12 has always been a little thing that I've
Right. You may
needed.
not be absorbing B12. Exactly.
Yeah, my dad isn't either. My dad, it's funny. So we're all kind of in the zone, but I know because of my physical and my A1C levels being higher, I'm really having to focus on, okay, this is something I don't want to get out of control. I've got to cut the sugar, which you talk about.
Exactly. Yep.
And what's funny is when you give yourself the space to be a little bit more still, you start to see what these things do to you. So the second I had even a smidge of sugar, the inflammation and the phlegm that pops up, you're just, if just a one little half a piece of something.
Exactly. And this is what happens. We are so tuned into the outside world, especially in the last, couple of years, never mind weeks. There's been so much info, everyone's so caught up in the external world. We don't tune in. And I think as you get older, it also becomes more and more important to, whether it's meditation or yoga, do some internal work where you actually tune in and listen to what's going on and not get so caught up with all this external chatter, which is very easy. So a lot of, what I'm recommending is this ancient wisdom, which is now we have this modern research which validates a lot of the ancient wisdom about, moving your body, about meditation, which is about sleep. A lot of this wisdom, which which is ancient, and most cultures have talked about it. But now we actually have the research to validate, what they've been saying for centuries.
Yeah. But sugar is a huge
The
issue
devil.
for people. And I've had some challenges where there's so many things that have popped up in the market now, so many alternatives for sugar, so many alternatives to meat. And that's another thing I want to talk about that you mentioned in the book that I really loved, was breaking down those kind of Impossible burgers and all of that. But I have always been of the belief that if you're going to do it, do the real thing, because the fake thing is going to be worse. And I feel like you're kind of on that page too.
Exactly the same page. So those fake meats, for instance, we have, unfortunately, the food industry caters to, what the culture wants. So the fake meats. Now, I'm not saying that from a what's the word? From a climate perspective or whatever from a
Environmental.
Yeah, thank you. Environmental perspective, having a meat alternative is not a bad idea. But from a health perspective, it's full of junk. It's fake food. Why would you want to eat that? Now, occasionally, if you want that feel of a burger and you don't eat meat for philosophical reasons, I understand. But to think that it's healthy, it's nonsense. Rather have a grass-fed burger without the bun than the fake meat. I'm against all that fake food, whether it's, gluten alternatives or these meat alternatives, or, just eat real food, eat food as close to nature. I think that it's what we're doing to the food that's more of a problem. I always say if it's made in a factory, it's probably not good for you. If it's made by nature, it's probably good.
Yeah, I agree. Although I have cut the 1 teaspoon of sugar I put in my coffee every morning. That was getting a little
that's
gluttonous.
unnecessary. You can just cut that. Yeah, you don't need that.
Yeah, I said goodbye to it.
Bye-bye.
Good.
I was like, goodbye. We don't need you. Because
and then your taste buds adjust. You don't need it. You realize,
Well, we have the soy milk. The soy milk is creamy enough in there. It's organic, non-GMO, and I love it.
Good.
But you also talked about, there's so many tips in here that I've already started applying, like I said, but good salt versus bad salt. I thought that was a fascinating discussion I've never heard anybody else talk about.
Yeah, I think salt, I don't make a big issue of salt, to be quite honest. I know it's become a lot of, in Western medicine, especially in cardiology, they make a big issue of salt. The problem is I think we get so much salt from processed foods. That's the problem. And regular salt now has had the iodine, it's had all the minerals taken out of it, regular table salt. So I'm a big fan of like Himalayan salt or even sea salt, proper salts that haven't had these, I think there's 17 or 20 minerals that get extracted from it. So I'm not against salt. Just use real salt, not the fakes, not salt that has had all these minerals taken out.
The table salt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then in terms of the meat, let's go back to that for a second because we have partnered with Thrive Market on this show for a while. And I know that you're actually a fan of it as well. And what you brought to my attention that I hadn't realized and had skimmed over because it wasn't a priority for me was the fact that they have organic meat, but they have the proper meat that you say. So one of the things that I want to kind of clarify for people is when you're at the supermarket and you're looking at the meats, what you're looking for is grass-fed, grass-finished in meat. But what is it in poultry and all of that?
Okay, so that's a great point. So organic red beef doesn't mean anything except that the corn that the cows were fed is organic. Now, when you feed cows corn, they become acidotic and they have to be given antibiotics and all sorts of things. So feeding, cows are ruminants. They have two stomachs. They need to eat grass. Grass is what they need to be fed. If you want to eat meat, you should be eating grass-fed and grass-finished meat. When it comes to poultry and eggs, organic and pasture-raised is what you're looking for. But labeling has become tricky as well. I mean, labeling has become a problem, but in general, I trust Thrive. I think Thrive is a wonderful market. I think they're doing the right thing. I wish there were more Thrives, but I'm a big supporter of Thrive. But meat should be grass-fed and grass-finished, poultry, organic, eggs, pasture-raised.
Okay, organic pasteurized. I didn't know with eggs exactly what to do. And with chicken, right? If you get chicken, what's the label?
Yeah, I look for just organic chicken.
Okay, so organic chicken, what do they feed them?
Well, theoretically, you should have chicken that are roaming free and eating whatever around. So, as I said earlier, the labeling starts getting tricky because they can still label chicken organic, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're being fed the right thing. So it is tricky, but I think it's still generally safer to, when you're looking for chicken, buy organic. I try to buy my chicken, my eggs from the local farmer, which is always best if you know your source. I don't ever buy any of that. I don't think Thrive has any of that. So, although they may now. But I think if you can find a local farmer or store that you trust, otherwise just buy organic.
Got it. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to say, Dr. Lipman, did you talk about in the book, I think I remember you did that, cage-free has become just kind of an overused term.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I've talked about it in the book, but I don't know what I put in the book anymore, but
everything.
Cage-free doesn't, cage-free can mean they just let them out the cages for a little short period and they put them back in. So the labeling has become very, very tricky. You use grass-fed and grass-finished. It used to be safe to say grass-fed meat, but now, grass-fed they can let the cows out for short periods in their lives and feed them grass, and then they go back to feed them corn to fatten them up. So the whole labeling issue is complicated, and I'm not sure what the answer, how we get around some of that.
Yeah. Well, I don't eat chicken anymore, so
there you go.
What's wild is I cut out meat after a Tony Robbins seminar years ago, and then I was severely anemic, had to introduce red meat back in, and then quit again, got anemic again, then realized, okay, red meat just has to stay. I haven't figured out a way to get enough of the iron through the diet.
Right.
But I stopped. I didn't eat chicken or turkey. I had a little turkey in quarantine, maybe a handful, but I think that helped me because I didn't do anything different. But when I went for my ultrasound for my thyroid last year, it had significantly shrunk. I had a thyroid nodule. And I have to think it was the chicken and the lack of chicken in my diet.
Yeah, I mean, the animal protein is always tricky because I'm not against animal protein. I think as you get older, you should not eat as much as when you're younger. When you're younger, animal protein from a good source is good. But when you get older, when you're in your 60s like me, animal protein actually activates the mTOR gene, mechanistic target of rapamycin, which actually is not good for aging. So when you get into your 60s, or 50s, it's probably a good idea to decrease your animal protein a little bit, uh, because of that stimulation of that particular gene. Now, once you get into your sort of mid 60s and above, you don't want to lose muscle mass, so you've got to balance it out. Protein is always tricky. I think most of us get enough protein probably until we're in our 60s. We all get more than enough protein. We don't have to worry about it. But once you start getting to your 60s, and if you're starting to lose muscle mass, then you need to maybe increase your protein a little bit more.
Do you do that with any kind of powders, Dr. Lipman?
I do.
What do you use?
People don't like it. I do pea protein. I have a shake almost every day. I put pea protein and I put collagen protein as well, because I've cut back a lot on my meat and chicken. I used to eat a lot. I went paleo. I became pre-diabetic many years ago, and then I became paleo. And then when I started reading the research about aging, I started cutting back a bit on the animal protein and started doing more of a pea protein and collagen. Now, collagen, even if it's from beef collagen, doesn't have the same amino acid profile as other animal proteins, so it doesn't affect those genes negatively. So I use pea protein and collagen in a shake.
Interesting.
What sort of collagen, Dr. Lipman? Do you have a brand you like?
I think Vital Proteins is good. Yeah. I'm a big fan of bone broth as well. Bone broth is a good source. You need to drink a lot to get a lot of the protein, but I'm a big fan of bone broth. But Vital Proteins is good collagen. Thorne make a good collagen. Orthomolecular products make a good collagen. I think there are lots of good brands out there.
Yeah. You mentioned the paleo diet, and I had a note I wanted to remember to ask you what your thoughts are on the keto diet.
Yeah, I still recommend a keto diet a lot for certain problems, and if you want to reverse certain issues, from obesity to diabetes, even I've had a patient who had epilepsy and went on a keto diet and got rid of her epilepsy.
Wow.
So I think a keto diet can be very powerful. It's not an easy diet to sustain, but the idea of a keto diet, if it's done properly, I like. We talked earlier about fat adaptation. Your body gets used to using fat for energy instead of the carbohydrates. So I'm all for a keto diet. I do think it's hard to sustain. And so, initially I'll start people on a keto diet, and then we'll sort of switch them over to more, add more carbohydrates, sort of more of a paleo diet and less of a keto diet. But I like a keto diet. I just don't know how sustainable it is for most people.
If it is sustainable for you, is it okay long term?
Yeah, I think for most people, I think it's, some people I've seen, their lipid profile goes crazy on a keto diet and often comes back to normal. So it's just something you've got to, work with your doctor and watch. But I think for the most part, it's not necessarily an unhealthy diet. If it's done properly.
If you're listening to this right now, if someone's listening and they're thinking, yeah, I'm bloated. Yeah, I'm realizing I get a lot of inflammation. I'm having crazy stool situations. What is your best advice for them right now?
Well, there is the easiest way is to start some type of elimination diet first to see if certain foods are triggering that problem. The best advice, if you can, is to see a functional medicine physician. And this day and age, it can be done virtually as well, because there are some tests that can be helpful. But and there's certain supplements that can be helpful, like taking certain antimicrobial supplements that are herbs that kill the bad bugs in your gut, like berberine is a perfect example, or grapefruit seed extract, or oregano oil, or an extract of coconut oil, lauricidin. So there are certain herbs and nutrients that can actually help balance the gut. But the first thing I would do is always remove the common food allergens, the gluten, the dairy, the corn, the soy, sometimes even eggs, the sugar, processed foods, and see what that does. But oftentimes you need other supplements to actually help the gut. But I do think it, as you pointed out earlier, I think it's important to deal with gut problems because they can create other problems all over your body.
Yeah, I think that's a huge, huge takeaway is to remind everybody that everything starts in the gut. And I know even good things can be harmful, right? Like I know Kelsey and I, if we eat beans, we bloat instantly.
Sure, because your body's just not digesting them. So that's another tip. Sometimes digestive aids like enzymes can actually help. So for if people who aren't digesting beans, try get some Beano. You can get it in the store and just squirt some Beano on your food. That sometimes helps. Soaking your beans can be helpful overnight. You soak them overnight, it decreases the amount of lectins and makes them more digestible.
So you believe in the lectin issue?
I think lectins can be a problem for some people. You know, these are generic questions that don't apply to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you have a leaky gut, if you have a gut problems, lectins can be a problem. Not always, but can be a problem. I think there is some truth to that. I'm not saying it's a problem for everyone. And the way to decrease your lectins is to decrease the amount of beans you eat and especially decrease or avoid the grains, because that's where a lot of your lectins come from. But soaking your beans overnight also decreases the amount of lectins.
That's interesting. I didn't know about that. You are also an advocate for a few things. You already talked about the cold rinse, and we wanted to mention that, but a good massage. Tell us about the benefits of a good massage. I think that's something that's overlooked by people because it seems like such an extra and such a luxury.
Sure. So a good massage where it's just relaxing and you like someone touching your body is one thing. But when you have a targeted massage and you have a tight, when you have a tight, let's say your hips are tight. If your hips are tight and they're not firing properly, your body's going to use other muscles for that same function. So either it's your back muscles or some other muscles in your legs. So a lot of back pain, for instance, is because you have tight hip muscles. So to me, a massage means releasing a lot of those tight muscles and that tight fascia, which frees up your body to function better. We talked about optimizing function of your gut. When you have tight muscles and tight fascia after an injury or not stretching enough, your body's going to compromise and use other muscles for those muscles to function. And that once you start getting your back muscles overworking, then you'll get back pain and then you'll get neck pain. So freeing up that tissue is key to functioning optimally. So getting a good deep massage where you free up that tight tissue, to me, is like optimizing functioning of your gut, because a little problem that's not addressed can over time create a bigger problem. I've seen so many people over the years who eventually needed a hip replacement, and it started with a tight hip that they didn't get treated properly, and they didn't get that deep tissue work. And because the hip was tighter and tighter, it constricted function of the actual hip, and the bones weren't working smoothly in the joints. So eventually they had to have a hip replacement. So all these, my whole attitude to health is try to pick these things up early, address them so they don't become bigger problems later.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You also talk about the importance of growing kind of our friends group and how important that is.
Sure. I call it growing your tribe. I think community, being surrounded by people you love, who love you, who understand you, where you can feel comfortable being yourself is important. So I think in this day and age, when I grew up in South Africa in the 50s and 60s, things were a little bit different. Everyone had extended families. There was community. That was just how it was. In this day and age, Facebook and, our communities have changed. And I think paying attention to your family, to your good friends, to people who think like you and where you feel comfortable is actually very helpful. We know there's tons of research showing that older people who are lonely don't do as well. So, you extend that further. I think being surrounded by loved ones is really important.
Lastly, Dr. Lipman, do you have any tips for someone who's listening to help find the right functional medicine doctor?
Well, I think word of mouth is always the best. I think functionalmedicine.org is the functional medicine website. You can always email my office, go to drfranklipman.com, and we know people in different parts of the country. I'm doing more virtual now, so I'm becoming more available for virtual. But the best is to find someone, a personal referral is always best. I think knowing someone who's seen a person and had good results and likes them is always the best referral. But functionalmedicine.org is good, and just going to my website, drfranklipman.com, and reaching out to us, and we can maybe help you as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I mean, there's probably 1,000 things I didn't get to at this point, but I know we're out of time, and we'll have to have you back again at some point. But this was very, very helpful, I think, for people to really understand what functional medicine is all about, not putting that Band-Aid on, not suppressing, and also really pointed tips on how to get yourself in a better place health-wise overall, but also acknowledging if you have a gut issue.
Right. Anyway, thank you, and thank you for all the work you do and putting this message out there, because I think it's an important message. So thank you.
Thank you. So nice to Zoom meet you. I'm sure we'll meet in person someday. And South Africa is one of my favorite trips I ever had to this day. Oh, so beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
All
Thanks,
right.
Maria.
Take care.
Bye, Dr. Lipman.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Wow.
I'm so excited to see him tomorrow, virtually. I'm going to be like, that was the best thing ever.
Oh my God, I know. You know what's crazy is I didn't even see all the notes that you guys had put together from my notes from the book, but I think we got through most of it.
Oh, you nailed it.
I mean, I was like hustling to get stuff in.
I know, you
'cause I'm
killed
We
it.
have so much to learn
He's
and
awesome.
reinforce. And like I said, guys, if you're thinking about somebody you want to get a gift for that needs it, like, this is the best book. It's so easy. Once you're finished reading this, you're sending it over to Kevin.
Oh, 100%.
Because he needs to read it.
Another great gift option too. I was so heartened to hear how pro Thrive he was. Just so you guys know, we did not pay him anything to say those nice things about Thrive Market. And we're proud on this show that we partner with brands that we actually support and like. Maria, you're really big on that, which I really respect as a producer. But that could be a great gift option too if someone wants to try healthy eating, a Thrive membership. And just remember, if you guys are going to check out Thrive, now you have a professional endorsement from a real doctor. Use our landing page. So that's thrivemarket.com/bettertogether.
Backslash.
Thank you.
Backslash better together. I actually am really, really grateful that I noticed he talked about getting that on Thrive, because that is going to be my thing today, because it's overwhelming trying to find, where do I get the right meat, and but if they're doing all the work for me, done.
We're
and
so ordering.
done. I don't have anything else near me here, as you know. And actually, Tammy Velicenti, our EMDR expert, if you haven't listened to that episode, it's a must. She gave me some links to some local farmers, like in Massachusetts. But Thrive's
trip?
going to make it so much
Oh, I
easier. I'm
know.
like, yes, but I might contact her, because I bet she has somebody who makes bone broth.
That's what we need.
But I also, I forgot to ask him, I bet you Thrive has bone broth too.
Well, and I wonder, I'll ask him for you.
Yeah,
When I see him,
find out,
because
that is something we need to incorporate into our diets
those
more.
collagens, like Vital Proteins, I know is a bone broth collagen, or it's a bone, so I don't know if that works.
When
in
I'm in
replacement.
LA, Alyssa Goodman, our nutritionist, our Better Together favorite nutritionist, if you haven't listened to her episodes, holy moly, if you want to figure out how she, beat cancer and how she does everything incredible, thyroid disorders, everything, you want to listen to her episodes. But I order her soup cleanses sometimes when I want to get myself on track and eating healthier and kind of reset. And she has a bone broth in there, and it's good. So
Well, I'm also looking at a Thrive branded grass-fed, grass-finished Thrive Market bone broth. So it's
there you go. Boom.
Jeff,
See?
link that.
This is why I love them.
I know.
We're not working with them currently right now, but I'm obsessed with them. And
It's so cool.
I think it's so good.
Yeah.
I was just gonna make a note, and I think it was about the bone broth, but maybe it wasn't.
Alyssa
Goodman.
Is it Alyssa Goodman? I think she has a new book coming out soon. We're going to have to, she'll reach out, I'm sure.
I know she ships her bone broth too, so.
Yeah. But there was something else that came across my mind, but whatevs. As always, thanks for joining us, guys. If you would do us a kindness and help us get the word out, share it with friends, share it with social media, anything you can do to help us as we're building better together, because we're doing it with you, would be amazing. Also, if you have time to leave us a comment on Apple Podcasts or on YouTube, we read every one of them, and tomorrow we will read some live on the air. So thank you for that. It's kind of a great gift for us, because it lets people know what they're getting and will help sway people towards us. We're trying to get 1,000 by December.
And we're at 934 right now.
Ooh,
so we see you guys.
We're getting close. We're getting close. Tomorrow we're going to be chatting with celebrated brain coach Trevor Moad, who has worked with some of the world's most elite athletes like Russell Wilson. We're going to talk about the power of visualization, why it matters more than ever now. In the meantime, if you want more information on Dr. Lipman, you can go to his website, like he said, drfranklipman.com. We'll put the links to everything in there. Of course, his book, The New Rules of Aging, is available on Amazon. You can follow him on Instagram at Frank Lipman MD, at Better Together with Maria, at Jeffrey Crane Graham, at Kelsmeyer too. And remember, be nice people, make good choices, and be present.